Please give a warm welcome to Joanne Schochat. Labeled Miss Chicago.
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Joanne Schochat. As you know, long-time listener, first-time storyteller. And I hope that you enjoy my true story entitled One Day on the CTA. I'm a Chicago native, born and raised in the city of Chicago. You can tell I'm a native by how I pronounce the name of the city. Chicago. Not Chicago. Not Chicago. You recognize the natives by how they say Chicago. The soft C and the awesome A, as in Chicago is awesome. You should listen for it. I was born and raised in the city, not in the suburbs or somewhere north of Route 80, but inside the city limits on the far south side. Some people think that the city limits must end somewhere around 59th Street. That's south, but not far south. No, my friends, the city continues south from there for another 8 miles, all the way to 131st Street. That's where my old neighborhood is found. Nowadays, that's where you'll find the former industrial corridor of the Midwest, the remains of Acme Steel next to the Calumet River, the brownfields of U.S. Steel, the former Pullman Works, what's left of Sherwin-Williams paints. Back in my day, as they say, these were vibrant industries. It was where, by the time you've reached the 8th grade, you've unwittingly, virtually, completed the first 6 weeks of a labor law class. You knew what a scab was. You knew the difference between time and a half and holiday pay, and was familiar with the concept of trade jurisdiction, even though you didn't know what to call it. Well, I don't live there anymore. Now I live in one of the close-in suburbs, just 5 blocks from the western border of the city. But I still consider myself a Chicagoan, and I still love the city. You know, the city of Chicago just has a bad rep and gets a bad rap. All you hear about the city is its gun violence, carjackings, gangs, political corruption. And yes, indeed, these are matters of concern. But you also need to know about its people. The people who've made Chicago their home. People from numerous worldwide heritages, colors, ages, who by and large manage to live together in mostly peaceful coexistence, and who can and do embody the true meaning of neighbor. Just where does one encounter that diverse population of Chicago? Well, on public transportation, of course, on the CTA. The CTA. The often crowded, late, slow, for many expensive, for others extremely cheap in comparison to parking a car in the loop, harboring the poor, the homeless, the well-off, the student, the employed and unemployed, the necessary part of many lives. The CTA, taking Chicagoans where they want to go. After many years of traveling on Chicago's public transportation, I've developed a theory that travelers on the CTA form their own little community, the community of the one train car, the community of the single bus. It's on the CTA where we are there together sharing our journey. Black, brown, white, young, old, traveling on our life journey as well as to our travel destination together. This is one of the reasons to love Chicago. Yes, indeed, it was a hot summer day last year when I jumped on the Green Line inbound toward the Loop. I got on at Oak Park Avenue. The train had a variety of people on board, A mix of ethnicities and ages, that small sample of the city population that I've already talked about. The train picked up more passengers than expected at midday as we traveled eastbound. As we neared the Central Avenue stop, the L car in which I was sitting had almost every seat taken except the seat directly next to me. Sitting directly across the aisle from me, facing me, was an African-American gentleman. I'd say he was about in his mid-40s. He was a big guy. He might have played high school football back in the day. Near the door of the car, where there is extra leg room for passengers with bikes, wheelchairs, and the like, was a young man. A Rastafarian, maybe in his late 20s, dreadlocks, tats, piercings, buff, wearing a muscle. Wearing a Muscle Man t-shirt and shorts, holding onto an umbrella stroller containing a toddler. Let's put it in context. A really cute little girl with a head of braids and tiny pink barrettes, beautiful brown eyes in a sunsuit, sucking on a pink lutscher. That's a pacifier for those of you who need a translation. It looked like the toddler's mother was sitting in the seat closest to them, and that small group had a nice family feel to it. At the Central Avenue stop, a boy entered the car with a backpack, a blonde with prominent black circles under his eyes. A 20-something, I guessed. He reminded me of my youngest son, could have been about the same age as he was at the time, and he sat down right next to me. He took out his phone and dialed a number. Yeah, hello? Yeah, I'm on the green line. I got on. I just got on. I'm sorry, I'm on the green line now. Where do I get off? Yeah, I'm sorry. Do I get off at Ashland? Yeah, I just got on the green line now. Again. Do I get off at Ashland? Of course, I could hear everything the kid was saying and nothing of the other side of the conversation. I took a look at the transit map at the top of the L exit door. It was directly across the aisle from where I was sitting. I thought, well, this kid better make up his mind because if he's supposed to get off at Ashland, it's coming up pretty soon. As a reminder to some and news to others, Ashland Avenue runs north and south down almost the entire length of the city. As I'm listening to what I can of the phone conversation, I'm thinking, the Green Line stops at Ashland and Lake, and then circles the loop, heads south, and crosses Ashland again. The Orange Line has a stop at Ashland, somewhere on the way to Midway Airport, and then doesn't the Blue Line also have an Ashland stop? The boy was sounding just slightly panicked as I heard yet another "I'm sorry" from him, and again reference to Ashland. Geez, why isn't this kid asking the right questions? Finally, I leaned over to our telephone boy and said in a voice I hoped was loud enough for the party on the other end of the line to hear, "Quit saying I'm sorry and find out the address of the place and find out what color L line you're supposed to be riding." I inexplicably added, "and we'll help you figure out how to get there." I did one of those all-inclusive arm gestures. I already told you this young man reminded me of my son, right? I made eye contact with the football player across the aisle. He gave me a slight nod of his head. Our telephone boy ends the phone call and says, "It's at 1644 West Walnut Street. I'm supposed to get off at Ashland from the Green Line." So I say, "Well, I know Ashland is 1600 West, but I don't know where Walnut Street is." At this, the football player steps in. 1600 West is Ashland. Walnut is 2 blocks north of Ashland. The address is 1644 West Walnut. You need to walk 2 blocks north, then turn left to get to that address. The numbers go up as you go west. Now the Rastafarian steps up. When you walk down the stairs to ground level, you'll be facing the wrong way. Turn around when you get to the bottom of the stairs, so you'll be walking north. The baby in the stroller looked at us and smiled. By now, the train is slowing for Ashland Avenue. The football player looks out the north-facing window and says, "This looks like an industrial park. Is this where you should be going?" The kid looks out the window and says, "Yeah, this is right. I recognize the place." The door's open. The kid jumps from his seat without so much as a wave, let alone a thank you as he exits, just like my son would have. The doors close and the train moves on. My stop was shortly after the Ashland stop, so I got up to exit. As I stood at the door, I looked at my assisting navigators and say, "Well, we did our good deed for the day. I just can't see the point of saying I'm sorry over and over again. Say I'm sorry once and move on." At that, the Rastafarian says, "From the address, it looks like he was heading to the Cook County Probation Office. They usually want you to report by 9 a.m. And the football player says, "Yeah, and it's after 12 noon now, so he's a little late. So that's probably why he was saying he was sorry." At that, half of the L car closest to the action starts laughing like your cousin is hearing an inside joke. The doors opened at Clinton and I exited the L to that toddling town, the Windy City, our sweet home Chicago with the awesome A, because Chicago is some kind of awesome.
Well, come on. Two is 8. Come on, baby, don't you make me late. Hey, baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place, sweet home Chicago? Come on, somebody play something. Yeah, everybody just sing a solo right now. There's no other words on this page. I don't think it matters because we're gonna sing it anyway. Baby, don't you wanna go back to that same old place, sweet home Chicago? 6 and 2 is 8, 9 and 9 is 18. I don't know what. Baby, don't you wanna go? I just had to do math. That's not even on here. That's the same old place, sweet home Chicago. Back to that same old place, sweet home Chicago.